This is part 2 of lesson 3 on page 572. What we were doing last class, or in part 1, was the equation of a line. So just write that down. So the equation of a line. There are 3 equations of lines, and you need to know all 3. You've been introduced to the first 2, and then lesson 4 will introduce you to the third. So the first equation of the line, it's the most common. That is the slope y-intercept. And remember, the equation for that line, when it's in slope y-intercept form, is going to be y is equal to mx plus b, and m is your slope, which is your rise over run, and b is your y-intercept. The second equation was the beginning of this lesson, and it's the equation in general form. What the equation in general form looks like is as follows. Ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. That's the equation in general form. There's 2 things you need to remember about the equation in general form. The first thing that you need to remember is that x must be positive. So you go to the side that makes x positive. So x must be positive. The second stipulation for general form is you can have no fractions. And all of this will be reviewed in these next class examples. Do you remember for slope y-intercept, what needed to be positive here? We were bringing, do you remember, this was x needs to be positive. This one was y. So in slope y-intercept, y must be positive because you can't enter it on your calculator. The button is y is equal to, so you can't have a negative y. So let's look at class example 4. You're going to see how much work these questions are. When I give you this quiz, it will be 2-3 questions maximum because one of these questions would be worth 8 marks. Okay, actually, when we get to question 5, that's more like a quiz question. Which of the following lines are perpendicular to this line here? So the first thing you have to realize is whenever they use the word either parallel or perpendicular, they are talking about slope, right? If they are talking about slope, the only equation that we could get the slope from is this. Y is equal to mx plus b. So what we have is we have an equation in the general form. So I'm going to write it below y is equal to mx plus b. So we've got 4x minus 2y plus 9 equals 0. And I need to manipulate this to get y is equal to mx plus b. So you got to go out of general and you need to go into slope y-intercept. So remember, you're always looking at the y value and you want that to be positive. So because it's a negative y, I'm going to bring it to the other side by adding 2y to both sides. Then what I'm left with is 4x plus 9 is equal to 2y. I'm really close to having y isolated, but there's a 2 in front of it that I need to get rid of. So I'm going to divide that side by 2 and every term on the other side by 2. I would then have 2x plus 9 over 2, which is 4.5, is equal to y. I am now in y is equal to mx plus b. Most students will rewrite this to have the y first. So most students will say, okay, y is equal to 2x plus 9 over 2. Slope is 2. The y-intercept is 9 over 2, which is 4.5. Okay, so what we need to do is this. We need to take the slope from here, and this has a slope of 2. And remember, it's 2 over 1. They want to know what is perpendicular to this line. So if this slope is 2 over 1, what would the perpendicular slope be? Any idea? Negative 1 over 2. You reciprocate, and it's the negative inverse. So if this slope is positive, this slope must be negative in order for it to be perpendicular. So what we are looking for, what this question is saying, is which of the following lines, and they gave me 3 lines, which of these 3 lines, and there might be more than one, are going to be perpendicular to this line? Well, if this line has a slope of 2 over 1, we are looking for negative 1 over 2. So what we have to do, and it's a lot of work, is you need to box in each y. So box in each y. If your y is positive, it stays. And in these 3 examples, y is positive. So get rid of the other terms. Bring in all 3 of these. And I'll give you a few minutes, and then I'll ask you y is equal to, and you'll tell me the answers. So here's the 3 equations of these 3 new lines, and we need to now figure out the slope of each of these lines, because the question is, which one of these lines have a perpendicular slope? So we're going to be looking for this negative 1 over 2. So for this first one, the slope of this line is negative 2 over 1. The slope of the middle line is negative 1 over 2. And the slope of this last line is negative 1 over 2. The question gave us a line, and they said what's perpendicular to the line. So the line that they gave us had a slope of 2 over 1. We are going to check mark the lines that have a slope of negative 1 over 2. How many answers are there? Do you know? How many of these have that perpendicular slope, which is this, negative 1 over 2? There's 2 of them. So this one has the slope, number 2, and number 3. Those 2 lines would be perpendicular to the original line given. Let's look at number 5. We're going to star number 5 because 5 and 6 are perfect test questions, a lot of marks per question. Write the equation of a line which is perpendicular to this. So again, if you see the word perpendicular, you say to yourself, always, I need the slope. In order to get the slope, you need to look at this. You need to look at your line in the form of y is equal to mx plus b. Here's the equation of the line in general. So we're doing the same thing. We're going to manipulate this into the form of y is equal to mx plus b. So isolate your y. Decide if you're going to keep the y there or move it. I'm going to keep it because it's positive. Get rid of that 2x from both sides and get rid of that 7. I would be left with 5y is equal to negative 2x plus 7. From here, continue to isolate your y by dividing each side by 5. And the slope of the given line is y is equal to, the equation of the given line is y is equal to negative 2 over 5 x plus 7 over 5. We're going to create a new line that's perpendicular to this. So if we are going to create a new line that's perpendicular, I need to know what this slope is. Negative 2 over 5. What will my new slope be? Does anybody know what the equation of the new slope, what it would be? If it's perpendicular to negative 2/5, what would it be? 5 over 2. Reciprocate, it's the negative reciprocal. If this slope is positive, this slope is sorry, this slope is negative, this slope is positive. So we're going to create the equation of a line. This is going to be the slope. So y equals mx plus b, we're going to have 5 over 2x. Now we got to figure out the b value. What it says here is it says the same y-intercept as this one. Okay, so let's take this line, which is in general form. If they want the y-intercept, what they are looking for is the b value. So if you're in general, always get out of general. General will do you no good. Box in that y, isolate y. Get rid of that 2x, get rid of that negative 6. This line has the equation y is equal to negative 2x plus 6. We need the y-intercept, which is the b value. This is the y-intercept. I did all of that work, and I haven't even done the question, because the question one was, what is the equation of a new line with this slope and this y-intercept? So you say, okay, they want a new line. Y is equal to mx plus b. Let's take out the m. I know that the m is 5 over 2. Then I need to say, what was that b value? What did they want my y-intercept to be? They wanted it to be the 6. This was my y-intercept, plus 6. That is the answer. They wanted two answers, but this is the answer in slope y-intercept form. From here, they say, okay, give it to me in slope y-intercept and in general. So then I'm in slope y-intercept. I need to get out of this, and I need to go back to this. So remember, for general, what you care about is the x. The x needs to be positive. So if I look at this equation here, the x is positive, so it stays. I'm going to subtract y and subtract y from both sides, right? Because I want the x to stay. So I'll be getting rid of that y. And you'll have the 0. So you want the 0 on one side of your equal sign. And then you write it in order of x, y constant. So it would be 5 over 2x minus y plus 6. That is the answer in general. There's one thing wrong with it that we have to get rid of. Jackson, do you know what it is? What's wrong with this? The fraction. We need to get rid of this divide by 2. So if this is being divided by 2, how do we get rid of that fraction? We put this in a bracket, and we're going to multiply that side by 2. What we do to one side, we will always do to the other side. 2 times 0, it doesn't change anything. That's 0. But watch what happens when you distribute the 2 into this bracket. You could, on your calculators, type in 2 times open bracket 5 divided by 2 close bracket, or you could just do it in your head. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So it'd give you 5x. 2 times negative y is negative 2y. And 2 times 6 is plus 12. That's your answer in general. We gave the answer in slope y-intercept and general. Let's look at the last class example. There's one thing that will be new in this one, which is passing through a point, which I'll explain because I put that on the quiz as well. A student made the following statements about a line with this equation. Here's the first thing they said. The slope of this line is 5. So some people would look and say, they'd say, okay, slope is in front of the x. It is 5. What do you think? Is that true or false? Is this in y is equal to mx plus b? It's not. because of that 2. You got to get rid of the 2. So divide that by 2 and each of these by 2. What you will get is y is equal to 5 over 2x plus 6. So if you don't isolate your y, you'll get the question wrong, and you'll say, yeah, the slope is 5. It's not 5. The slope is 5 over 2. That is your slope. So statement 1 is false. It's not true. It's got a slope of 5 over 2, not 5. Then it says the line that they gave us, so here's the line that they gave us, is parallel to this line. So you say, okay, parallel means slope, right? This line has a slope of 5 over 2. So we're going to check if this line has a slope of 5 over 2, because if it does, it's parallel. So let's write the equation of this line. 10x minus 4y plus 13 equals 0. We want to go into y is equal to mx plus b because we want the slope. So I'm going to get rid of that negative 4y by adding 4y to both sides. And I'm going to have 10x plus 13 is equal to 4y. You're going to isolate your y by dividing everything by 4. You will have in reduced form 5x over 2 plus 13 over 4 is equal to y. And then I'll just quickly change this. Okay, so this was the statement. Is the original equation, which has a slope of 5 over 2, parallel to this new equation? And you need to look at the slope. Angel, what would you say? Are the two lines parallel? Yes. Why are they parallel? The same slope. So I would say, okay, well, this line, it also has a slope of 5 over 2. And remember, if the slope of line 1 is equal to the slope of line 2, they are parallel. So statement 2 would be true. Let's look at this last one, and I want you to star this one, because I don't think we've done one like this, but you'll always get this question on an exam. They're wondering if the original line passes through this point. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take the equation that they gave you. 2y is equal to 5x plus 12. So I just took the original equation. You could actually take the manipulated equation, but I always take the original. They want to know if this line passes through negative 2, comma 1, and how could you algebraically show that without typing it on your calculator? What you would do is if they give you a point on a line, what they're essentially giving you is an x coordinate and a y coordinate. In this equation here, I have a y and I have an x. I'm going to substitute these numbers in for y and x over here. If the left-hand side equals the right-hand side, it's a point on your line. If you get, let's say, a 3 is equal to 5, that's not true. It would not be a point on the line. Okay, so let's plug in and see if it's going to be a point on a line. 2 times y, and y was 1, is equal to 5 times x was negative 2, plus 12. So I just substitute in the numbers. 2 times 1 is 2. Now I got to see, does the right side equal 2? 5 times negative 2 is negative 10 plus 12. Negative 10 plus 12 is 2. Left side is equal to right side. Therefore, here's how you write therefore. The point that they gave us is on the line. If it was not on the line, you'd get a 2 here, let's say, and a 5. And they don't match, you'd say it's not on the line. What that means, because it's on the line, statement 3 is also true. So which of the above statements are true? 2 and 3. The answer would be C. I'm going to give you your homework. With part 1, you've already done questions 1, 2, and 3. Now you're going to be doing some of the remaining questions. 4, star it, and 5, star. They're perfect quiz questions. For number 4, just to give yourself a hint, box in the word parallel and write slope. Right? If they want parallel, they're talking about slope. This is in general. If they want slope, you have to get it to y is equal to mx plus b. And remember, when you do that, you box in the y, because the y needs to be isolated. It needs to be positive. So you'd be adding 3y to both sides. Just to give your, to help, same y-intercept. Y-intercept is the b value when you're in the form y is equal to mx plus b. So this guy, you have to get into that form. Box that in. You're going to isolate that y, bring it over to the other side, and you're going to see what's the b value. And then you're going to write the equation of that line. So do 4 and 5. Number 8, what you're going to do for all of these is you're going to write it in the form of y is equal to mx plus b. So for all of them, you're boxing in your y. This one's a -1. Circle number 9. Circle 11. And that would be it for the homework.